either live by the gun or you die by the sword.
Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast. I'm Nicho.
And I'm Chris.
And while trying to find other carsploitation flicks to look at, most of them were hard to get a hold of.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
We stumbled upon a movie we had never heard of.
No, but the tagline really drew me in.
Steven Spielberg's first feature film, the 1971 TV movie Duel.
And yes, Steven Spielberg's first feature film is written on the box art.
Yeah.
That's what they're promoting this with, which now that I've seen it and I've done the minimal amount of research on this, I'm shocked that that's how they promote this movie, because this movie's actually really good.
Yeah. It's written by Richard Matheson, directed by Steven Spielberg, and really only starring one person, Dennis Weaver, and it follows a businessman who's terrorized by a tanker truck on his drive to a business meeting.
Yeah, and it's strangely good. The screenplay is by Matheson, but it's from his own short story that he published in Playboy like a year or two before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the short story is based on his own personal story of when... Now, I did read two different accounts. One where the truck cut him off, and one where he cut the truck off and caused some road rage. So, like, which one's true? I don't know.
So maybe it is true. Some people do read it for the articles.
I guess. But yeah, no, this whole short story was a Playboy short story that I believe Spielberg's at the time secretary handed him and was like, this would make a really good TV special. Before this, technically, if you want to be so technical, this isn't technically Steven Spielberg's first feature-length production. He did do an episode of the TV special Name of the Game, which was feature-length episodes.
And see, that's the thing. There's a difference between
a film.
Yes.
And even then, technically, this one's a weird loophole, because this was originally just for TV, and it was so popular, they went ahead and added some extra scenes to pad out to that 90-minute mark, and then released it, making it his first only by the skin of its teeth.
Yeah, but that's fine. I mean, look at every Columbo episode is about the length of a movie.
Oh, no, I'm not saying it's wrong. I just find it hilarious that there were some people who, when I was reading, like, who liked this, what did they like about it, that was some people's complaint. Nothing about the movie, really. Just, like, the wording on the front of the box bothered them just a little bit.
Yeah.
Which, okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, but... Also, like, that's the thing is, like, I like finding these, like, little hidden gems because...
I do, too. Because this movie's really good, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, because I told a handful of friends I was watching this, and they're like, oh, that's actually really good, and I'm like, okay, I was expecting a really dumb, like, director's first movie that has some inklings of his greatness.
No, this one straight out the gate was good, and, like, I also love that everyone else that I talked to, too, that I was, like, mentioning, like, oh, I'm watching this, if they had heard of this, everyone's response was also, oh, that movie's surprisingly good.
Yeah.
That was everybody's response to this.
Yeah.
Which now, like, especially now looking backwards on Spielberg, like, should we have been surprised? Probably not.
Well, I mean, that's the thing for a TV movie. Yeah, we should have been, because that's all.
True.
That's also the thing is, like, the way this movie starts off is very, very slow. I mean...
Well, there's a reason.
But here's why I like it, because it does start off, it feels like the old everyday commute.
It does. And
the radio, which is something that I had a thought back to of like, oh, we don't really think about the radio anymore.
That's true. I think there's only a handful of us who still are on it.
But in the little things they do in the background, I think because also this is a budget movie.
It is. The
way they have to go about it and how they develop the characters is very simple and subtle. At first with like the census portion of the radio talk show. And I'm like, what the hell? Why are we listening to this? But it was a way to establish that the protagonist, David Mann, is a bit of a boring man, a little henpecked maybe, and just kind of your average day, which we see later on with a call from his wife showing that he's a bit whipped and spineless, but maybe not whipped.
He's just tired.
Yeah, he's spineless and he can't even stand up for his woman.
That's true. But honestly, okay, so the phone call to his wife, and I think several minutes worth of this intro all added to this film. Because this movie was originally like 70-something, 75-ish minutes runtime, and the studio was like, we want this to be full length, but full length to us is minimum 90. So, like, this whole intro got so much longer because that was the easiest part to, like, add on to like make the movie longer.
Okay.
Which ended up helping it a lot to make the beginning boring.
Yeah, and interesting because that's the thing is David does parrot what he heard on the radio program where he's like, "Are you the head of the household? I wish I was, but my wife is." And it's like,
yeah, and like all of this was added, and it feels seamless. Like I would not have known if I hadn't listened to a bunch of interviews with Spielberg about this movie.
And even when we do get introduced to the truck, that's where it like really starts to vamp up with the flammable looming, making it feel dangerous above him, and also. So here's my thoughts.
Okay.
I think the reason the trucker targets him is not because of a road rage incident, but because he's also breaking the rules. He passes the truck on a single
he does.
Yellow line.
He does. The other thing that I find so interesting, and a lot of people compare this to like how they feel like Spielberg was really influenced by Alfred Hitchcock in this film, is that you never see the driver of the semi, which makes the semi itself the bad guy, not necessarily the person who's potentially being an ass.
The faceless killer.
Which kind of is interesting, because this idea of like a semi-truck running you off the road or chasing you is not... well, this was the first one, as far as I can find. But, like, it was replayed multiple times later, but most of those had, at minimum, a voice. They could talk on CB. Or
the Joyride franchise.
Yes, thank you. Or, like, you could see the driver at some point, or several points. This is one of the few ones that, like, without specifically saying, like, the truck is sentient and ghost-ridden, that, like, the truck is the bad guy.
Yeah, well, there's a couple things with that, too. One... The way they also shoot some of it is where there's in the radio show, he's like, "I'm afraid of her too," as the truck looms. Because we all refer to cars as her.
Yep, kind of like the boat logic.
Yeah, but it was a nice little touch to that. But it's also the reason this also becomes terrifying because we've all dealt with asshole truckers. It's something everyone has dealt with. So there's
always that one trip that you remember where it's like, some other driver, like, really spooked you. And that's kind of like the story you retell.
Yeah.
This one, though, like, granted, I do think a lot of it helps is that this is based off a real-life incident, which turned short story, which turned movie. But, like, there's so much truth behind it. It's taken to that next level.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, like, they're able to make this inanimate object, like the tire and rubber...
Yeah, good point.
Give some emotion to it, whereas like rubber, you have some feeling towards this one. This one's just menacing the entire way because...
Yeah, he's terrifying every time he shows up.
Well, it's rusted, it's just creepy, and again, the faceless killer, and it's supposedly flammable.
True.
The one thing that unfortunately ruined this for me...
Okay, what was your complaint?
And it's by no fault of the movie at all.
Okay.
By itself. The scene when it's sitting across... Under the bridge.
Yeah.
Fucking SpongeBob.
Yeah.
It's standing there, menacingly.
Yeah.
Ladle. I could not get that out of my head. And it's just like, I hate you, SpongeBob.
Yeah.
This is such a good part of the movie.
And unfortunately, that's all you can hear.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I totally see it. I won't lie. While I was watching this one, I was doing... some fan Wikipedia searching, because when a movie has an abundance of cars, or even honestly just a focus on a car at all, or sometimes even just shows a singular bumper of a car people lose their minds. And while I myself am not a true car person, because I cannot speak car, I simply enjoy the visual of car, I do enjoy listening to car people bitch about movies.
Okay. The
bitching was delightful because everyone had opinions on the cars in this movie, on the semi-trucks in this movie. Apparently this movie happened before a reform in the trucking industry, which meant that like you could have one license plate for your truck and trailer and like have that be your registry, as opposed to in this movie where you have to have like every state you're going through registered, which is why they have all the license plates on the back.
Okay.
Like there is lists of all of, because this was shot obviously in real location. None of this was shot on sets as far as I can find.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do a highway as a set.
So all of these places are real. So the tunnel has a fan page.
Okay.
Like, and it's not, very few of these fan pages were truly dedicated to the movie Duel. Most of them were dedicated to the thing the movie had in it. So, like, the car, the semi-truck, the landmarks, which I found hilarious and fascinating because where else are these things in movies other than Duel, and why isn't this, like, if that's your thing, why isn't this high on your list of, like, top movies? But it's not. Movie people like it because it's surprisingly good first movie for Spielberg, and car people just like cars, and happened to watch a movie with a car in it.
It's called autism, but without trains.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. But, okay, and I actually have a complaint about the cars.
Okay.
In one part.
Which was...
I'm not a car person, but...
Okay.
Them thinking his tiny-ass car could push the bus out of its rut.
Okay. Okay. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But as someone who owns an older car, I can confirm that they weigh a shit ton more than modern cars.
They might weigh a shit ton more,
and they did have a lot more power for no damn reason.
But still, I don't believe it.
I don't believe it either. I do think it was just like, what's the next, like, escalation? Because you can clearly see the thought process of, like, where the real life inspiration ends and the, like, what ifs begin.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the fun of this movie, is there's a ton of what ifs, because you can ask yourself, well, what if he turned around? What if he asked this other person for help? What if he spent more time on this activity or stayed at this cafe longer? Yeah. Like, there's all these what ifs, and there's no answer for them because we don't understand the semi-truck's, like, logic.
Well, I think that's the great thing about how this movie's set up, is because while I'm watching this, I'm just keeping an eye out. Every time there's a close-up of the mirror, I'm waiting for the truck to loom up, and I'm like, okay, this is... I can see where you wanted to do this, but with Jaws.
Yes.
And how it worked against you if you had done Jaws the way you had wanted to.
You can see the tension that he's so good and, like, now so well known for.
Yeah.
Building up the way that he builds up a villain, you can see in this movie, but it's with a truck. Like, it's very impressive. And
then in the middle of the chase is cutting between the road, the speedometer, the mirror, close-ups of David, and then over the line driving over the shoulder, showing the erraticness of everything. And then when you think the movie is going to be put on a hard pause, when David finally gets away for a little bit. This is 30 minutes into the movie when he gets to the cafe. It becomes a bit of a psychological horror flick.
It does. It turns a turn, and you're now, like, terrified of this semi-truck for no damn reason.
Yeah, but this is where I think David becomes more of an interesting character instead of going from this boring guy to a Vietnam vet that's not... Maybe he's not as boring. Maybe he's seen some shit, because after that crash... His glasses are off. He becomes more aggressive with everything. And then when he finally does approach the truck on foot acts like a man, that's when the truck is running away. Almost cowardly, but it's also we also don't know at the same time.
Again, it's so many what ifs. Because what if this isn't real? What if, like... What if this all ended ages ago? What if this is actually a ghost truck? What if this is an enemy? Like, there's too many.
Yeah, well, and that's because we don't know who the killer is.
The motivation, or if this is even, like, actually run by a trucker. Is this the ghost of the highway coming to take vengeance on him for being an ass?
Because it's not like Michael Myers, where we're told he's the personification of evil.
There's no logic given to us for this villain. And that's kind of the genius of it. And the other genius of this is that even when asked to pad it out, we got 90 minutes. Yeah. That's the perfect amount of time for a quick thriller.
Yeah.
Because I don't need answers to these what ifs. I don't care who the real semi-truck driver is or wasn't. I don't even really care if his marriage falls apart at the end of this movie. I just am invested in whether or not he lives.
Yeah, well, and even the radiator hose, like mentioned in the first stop in the movie, and then it coming back up again, is just like, okay, this is... You really knew how to, like, work out, like you said, one little line that wasn't necessary or didn't feel necessary, but it panned out in the long haul of it all.
I agree. And then the other thing that I applaud Spielberg, and this is something I have seen repetitively from him, is he takes either one of two approaches to his movies. He either becomes a huge expert on the thing he is creating a movie about, or he becomes just an expert enough to not mess it up. And he became just an expert enough on cars to not mess this up. He doesn't give anyone any unrealistic abilities, kind of Fast and the Furious franchise style.
I learned recently Fast X is the 4th most expensive movie in the world.
Cars are expensive, my man. Cars are so expensive.
I haven't seen it. Someone told me they blow up a dam.
They do.
Yeah, and also,
they do.
Also, Vin Diesel's
price was really high.
It was 5% of the movie's budget.
Yeah. Which honestly, I was surprised it was only 5. If I'm being very honest with you, after having watched it, I don't know where the rest of that money went. Probably all the dam and the cars. Yeah. Because it wasn't the editing. But that's okay.
Not as good as editing as Duel?
I don't think so, honestly. And that's kind of shocking because, again, this is a 1971 movie. And it was it was meant for TV. And he wasn't even, like, he wasn't pushing this to become a theatrical release. It just happened to do well. And the producers were like, oh, we can make more money.
Yeah.
He was honestly at this time in his career focusing much more heavily on TV shows. Like the next thing that like is listed in his cinematography after this is a TV show episode that he wrote and produced.
Yeah, he's working for TV. He did a TV movie.
Yeah, and the fact that this is so cleanly edited, the fact that there's minimal music, but it's perfectly interlaced. The way he emphasized sounds, which again, he became just enough of a car person to not piss off all the car people, but also not add unnecessary car facts. Yeah,
and David also, at the same time, the way that he builds him as going from this blank slate of a boring man, he's also not interesting enough to not hate him but not love him, but he's just your average Joe. And also you see his growth in his confidence and where he becomes kind of an idealized version of a man. Of course a man's gonna fight back, and that's the great thing about it too, is he does become interesting at the end with very minimal information given about who he is or anything about that. And I think that's
it's so good.
That's the beauty of the storytelling, is that you don't need to be hunkered down with a tragic backstory or he had Vietnam flashbacks.
And I think the greatest part of this, and I think part of the reason why I kind of wish there was more heavily starting spots in these old TV movies where there wasn't as much budget, we didn't have as much time, is that the only what if that actually matters is, does he live in the end? And we get the most satisfying car thriller version of the ending possible, and there's never a doubt that that's going to be the end, because this is the type of movie it is. But the excitement and the pull along to get to that ending that you are expecting feels rewarding. You don't feel like you already know the movie ends, so you're not going to watch it. You feel rewarded for having known the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, we know he's going to conquer it in the end, but
because that's what kind of movie this is, and that's the best part.
Yeah, but even then, when it's over and he collapses to his knees, it's just what's going to happen to you after this? This is one of those movies where, when we talk about horror and thriller movies, there's always that nagging question that comes back up of what psychological damage are these people going to have to deal with?
I hope this man can't drive anymore. He's never going to be able to look at a semi again.
Or is he completely confident in who he is? Is he going to come back as a better husband? Is he going to be able to stand up to the guy who is touching his wife?
That's very true, because again, the inspiration from Alfred Hitchcock is so clear in this movie, and in a very beautiful way. The inspiration is there, and also you can, especially if you follow Spielberg's career, which honestly, if you're gonna pick a director to be interested in, his is a pretty good lineup. You don't say.
One of the most celebrated directors in all of cinematic history is a good one to follow his career.
But the reason I say that is, unlike other directors who just never have misses or always have something interesting happening, you can see the direct line of inspiration to his own version of things, to a slightly better version of that, to a better version. You can see the points very clearly, and it's not hidden, it's very open. He talks regularly about where his inspiration, who talked to him about this, where he got things, and that makes this a very interesting case study, on top of just being a good movie.
Yeah, this is Jaws on the highway, basically.
You can clearly see where he's practicing, how to write a good thriller, how to use good sound, where to bring in good music, how to pan and, cut off road, how to make an empty sprawl of nothing terrifying, but also boring.
Yeah, well, and on top of that, that's the reason we picked this is because the plot sounds so boring and dumb.
It does.
It was the same thing with me in Phone Booth, because I picked that up thinking, okay, this is going to be dumb. I heard about it. I didn't want to see it because the trailer made it look really stupid. But then I watched it, I'm like, this is actually a pretty damn good thriller, to be honest.
And now you understand why my complaint of this movie is that the front cover, the selling point of this movie is that this is the first film directed by Spielberg. That's not a good selling point. This movie should say surprisingly good.
Or it should have a good tagline to it, too.
No, it really should, because also, like, the back of the box and, like, honestly, even its own IMDb page doesn't really sell this to you.
No.
Like, the only actor that I think most people probably will recognize is kind of our only main actor in this, which, don't get me wrong, I enjoy very much watching Dennis Weaver, but, like, he's kind of it. As far as, like, who you're probably going to be, like, super familiar with or, like, pull you in any way.
Yeah, because the only other characters we see are the guys in the cafe, which one of them doesn't even really talk. None of them talk except for the one he approaches.
Yeah.
The fuel attendant and the lady in the laundromat, which, nice little thing of when the truck pulls up, the door opens, in the laundromat, he's trapped in the circle, so
yeah, it's again, very cinematic, very good. But yeah, like, if I was following Dennis Weaver's, like, career, I probably would have skipped this when I was looking at Spielberg's lineup to see where I wanted to look at next, this wouldn't have stood out to me in any way.
If you're looking up car movies,
this one disappears for some reason, despite, like, there being a huge car fandom and, like, location fan for this. It's just, I don't understand why this movie isn't, like, better promoted, because it is very good.
It's one of the few that I can truly say, because while we watch obscure stuff,
we do.
This one is truly a hidden gem, I think.
No, I had a hard time finding recent reviews of this. And not that it's not like nobody watched it. There was like a handful, but it would be a review being like, good, enjoyed it, nice movie. And then you go back farther and people who had watched it when it came out or more like later talked about like, oh no, it's surprisingly good. I really enjoyed this reference. I really enjoyed how you can see his work here or how you can look at this reference, or the car people talking endlessly about how they enjoyed seeing where this was in time. And yet there's nothing for this. This is just kind of existing in its own bubble. And
now it has us.
It does. It now has us. I will be enjoying this movie again, I think. I'm probably going to add it to a lineup of car movies because I really liked this. It was surprisingly good. It had kind of that nostalgic vibe of an old Twilight episode to me, and I love that movie, or the TV show, so this is going on my shelf.
So I assume I know the answer, but rent, buy, stream, or decline that we ever watched Duel despite having an audio recording of us watching it.
Buy, for two reasons. One, where are you going to rent this? I don't know. Two, this is one of those ones where I do kind of fear this will be hard to get your hands on. It doesn't seem to have a huge cult following, despite having fans of the movie. There doesn't seem to be a bunch of press to re-release it. It's not popular enough in his lineup to be part of a box set until maybe way down the line. So I recommend buying this because it's a good movie. I'm going to watch it regularly. And also, I don't know how else to watch this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I'm always in the same boat. If you want a movie, buy it.
Oh, I agree.
But Duel definitely needs to be talked about more. And I think part of it, too, is we also stigmatize TV movies. So we see TV movie.
Very true.
Okay, this is going to be shit. And usually for good reason, because...
Usually they are.
Most of them are pretty bad. I'm looking at you, Vampire Dog, and the only highlight of that was...
The dog?
Norm Macdonald voiced the dog.
I understand it's been a while since I've seen that. I think I watched it once on TV, and then never again. So good for you to rewatch it.
It was the first watch for me. So.
Oh, well, you missed out on watching it prime time.
But I also think just Duel is one of those movies where you can get a small cast and have something keep you enthralled the whole way through. And
I also think that, and like, granted, I know you are a much bigger movie collector than I am. I pick stuff that I truly enjoy and I'm going to watch regularly. This is one of those ones where, like, as far as who I'm making watch this DVD with me, this is a pretty wide audience. This is a good thriller. There's lots of movie buff friends that I have who are going to find this very fascinating and, like, are going to pick up all the cues, too. It's also a fun action movie. Like, this has cool explosions, good chase scenes, good tension, like, real, like, you feel very threatened at times. Like, this is this has a little bit of something for everyone.
Yeah, and of, like, the carsploitation flicks of this era that you're able to get a hold of, because that was the big thing, is while carsploitation has a niche,
it does. It's got a fan base.
It's a relatively small niche that it's hard to find some of these other ones. Because I really wanted to do the Cars that Ate Paris.
Yeah, but
can't get a copy of it.
Yeah, and I know this is a genre that is kind of sort of dying out just because, like, cars are different now, roads are different.
Yeah, it's evolved in the Fast and the Furious took over, yeah.
For sure. And you would argue that maybe that's its own version of the genre, like it's rewritten it enough. But these movies are fun, and I do think that if people knew and could get a hold of them, this would have a bigger fan base, for sure. Because not just this movie, but a lot of the ones that you and I have managed to get our hands on are fun. They're a good time. This one just happens to be maybe the best version we've seen in a while.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm not a car person, so...
And I'm a mild car person. I enjoyed this, partially because there isn't any sexy cars in it. It's mostly semi-trucks, which was fun.
It's your average day in a rusty old bucket.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. So, but this isn't the end of our carsploitation segment.
Of course not.
We have one more review to wrap up the end of the year. One could say it's the death race of season 6.
Very good.
Yes.
Very good.
But, anywho, this has been the Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Peace. Thank you for stopping by this here town of the Good, the Bad, and the Weird. We appreciate your listenership, and if you want more of our takes in your life, feel free to check us out on social media at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, or tgtbtw for short. As well, if we missed a fact, your favorite part of a movie, or just have a suggestion and want to reach out and say howdy, feel free to email us at tgtbtwpodcast@gmail.com. And feel free to join our Discord at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, where we talk about movies, just share random banter here and there. And always, check out our podcasters, streamers, or any other content creator we shout out in our episodes. We really appreciate it. And as always, thank you for listening. Peace.